It all starts in a dungeon where Fang Tian, a badass assassin, is on a mission called Shadow Spider in the magical world. He got stuck in this world 12 years ago and had to take on these dangerous missions to survive. But hey, he's a pro now and knows how to handle mutant monsters, dangerous elves, and all sorts of crazy creatures. Fang Tian is in the middle of a fight with a spider when he gets an urgent mission to leave the magical world, but he gets distracted and ends up getting hit by the shadow spider. Thankfully, he manages to escape and uses the system to return to the real world. A door connecting the two worlds opens, and he emerges from it, wounded but alive. Suddenly, Habit appeared behind him, the one who had given him the mission to leave the game, and also surprisingly, he called him Uncle. This time, he took him out of the game to give him a special mission, which is to get close to an important person. As this mission is long-term, Habit warns him not to let others know his secret. Additionally, he cannot use his abilities in the real world, nor can he use that form to enter the magical world. Having misunderstood, Fang Tian uses fire magic, which angers Habit. After clarifying everything, Habit shows him the real world, and Fang Tian feels strange seeing the city. Then, Habit gives him advice to help him get used to his new life. Most importantly, he must find a girlfriend with big boobs, because they tend to be less intelligent. Fang Tian doesn't understand this, but he promises to do so. After understanding everything, he changes his clothes to start the mission. After a while, we meet Commander Tang Run, the person the protagonist must approach. At one point, his assistant tells him that they have found the boy they have been searching for, so Tang Ram orders that he be taken to see him at the police station. Fang Tian looks terrible, but that is part of the plan to deceive Tang Ram. He must pretend to be a homeless slave so that Tang Ran won't take him along. However, he must be careful not to act hastily because the mission is very complicated. At that moment, Tang Ram arrives, and they explain that Fang Tian was harassed during the entire time he was missing. Tang Ran tells the protagonist that he was friends with his father, and even he met him when he was a child. He invites him to stay in his house, and Fang Tian accepts, so he gives him a room in his house. He sees a photo of Tang Ram and his father. Tang Run's daughter Cici arrives to meet the boy her father has been looking for. Additionally, she wanted to guide him so that they can get along. She shows him the entire house and takes him to a gaming store. They recently released a game called Fantasy, which was very popular worldwide because it was very similar to reality. To enter, you need to wear a device that is a helmet. Fang Tian realizes that the name of the game Fantasy is same name of his world he was living in before. That day, Cici was going to play a game, but her friend Robin tells her that the physics class is losing 3-0 to the chemistry class. So she decided to participate in the game in order to defeat the chemistry class players, because if the physics class loses 2 more rounds, they had to pay the internet fee for a month to the chemistry class. Both Cici and her opponent chose the advanced game mode, which was appreciated by the physics class as it ensured fairness between all players. Once everything is ready, they enter an arena that surprises Fang Tian because it is identical to the world where he used to live. Then he wonders how they managed to get to that world, since their bodies were still with them. At the arena, Cici is holding her magical staff, while her opponent in black is a warrior type, holding a shield and a hammer. She cast an instant fireball shooting, and Fang Tian knew that this skill was only available to those who are level 25 and above, but opponent used his shield for protection. As the spell caused him to lose a lot of magic energy, Cici must be careful as the opponent is almost depleted. The opponent attacks head-on, but Cici uses a spell from the ice ring to trap one of the opponent's legs. The physics class starts to support Cici as the ice ring freezes its target and reduces its speed.
However, Fang Tian notices that the opponent is preparing for a fierce attack as his body emits a red light. With that attack, the opponent breaks free from the freezing and then quickly strikes her with his giant hammer. Cici tries to use an ice shield, but it is useless as the opponent breaks it with his hammer and the impact leaves her reeling. As a mage, she cannot block attacks at close range. The opponent approaches and delivers a critical blow, winning the round 4-1.
As there is one more round left, Cici asks her friends to play, but no one wants to risk losing. In anger, she shouts at them. However, Fang Tian requests the last match, and Cici believed him and accepts. Excitedly, she prepares everything, and Fang Tian tries to tell her that he is a complete novice, but she quickly puts a helmet on him, and he goes to test the game method to see if anything different happens or not. the system, upon verifying the protagonist's data, detects him as normal. Thus, it starts the recovery program, and upon succeeding, his data is integrated, and he enters the access interface to choose the game mode. At that moment, the opponent challenges him in advanced mode, and upon accepting, he is presented with options to choose his character from among the warrior, assassin, and mage. He chooses the assassin, so he gets his previous attire back. Then he receives a friend request from Cece, which he accepts, and she shouts at him to hurry as the duel is about to begin. In the ability options, he chooses the usual ones, and upon finishing, he is taken to a forest where the duel will take place. In this arena, the warriors can't use their full power. While the crowd is watching the game, they were confused why they didn't see Fang Tian in the arena, but Cece believed that he was planning something. Since he's an assassin, Robin was worried sick, thinking that the probability of losing is too high for them, because the warriors have a lot of blood, which is also the natural counter of an assassin. It has been a while since the game started, but Fang Tian hasn't appeared yet. Liu Jie, Fang Tian opponent, doesn't know that Fang Tian was hiding in the bush behind him. Fang Tian is hiding in the forest, because assassins have an advantage over warriors when they attack, by aiming at the neck of the opponent from behind. However, he feels a strange sensation and gets injured in the face instead. The opponent attacks him with his high-class shield, and Fang Tian tries to protect himself with his arms, but he gets thrown away. At that moment, the opponent deals a heavy blow, decreasing half of his life bar. He was feeling confused and weak, unable to fight back, as Liu Jie teased him for being a newbie. Liu Jie spun his hammer, planning to execute his opponent with a single hit. Suddenly, a system appeared and offered Fang Tian freestyle mode. The crowd watched in fear as Luigi rushed toward Fang Tian, thinking he would easily win. Fang Tian had no idea what freestyle mode was, but since he had no other choice, he confirmed it. He regained full control of his body and managed to block his opponent's attack, leaving Liu Jie confused. It was then that he realized Fang Tian was a freestyle player. Fang Tian took advantage of the situation and hid in the bush, leaving the crowd amazed. They had never seen a freestyle player with such expert moves before. Cece didn't know that Fang Tian had such abilities. Players usually choose the semi-freestyle mode to fight more easily with the help of the system. However, expert players can activate the freestyle mode, which depends entirely on the player's gaming ability. The opponent walks through the forest a little scared, because Fang Tian is an expert player with a freestyle mode. Suddenly, the protagonist emerges from the bushes and deals a critical attack on the opponent, decreasing half of his life bar. The opponent is surprised, because that normal attack did a lot of damage, and he attacks back with his shield. However, Fang Tian dodges, and then jumps on the opponent to deal another critical attack. As Fang's fighting style is unpredictable, the opponent's attacks don't work. However, in desperation, he uses a special ability, defeating Fang Tian. The opponent knows that Fang Tian let him win. When Fang Tian returns to the access interface, he discovers that the gameplay method is different from his previous world. If he dies in the game, he won't die in reality, unlike in the magical world where death is the end of his life. Therefore, Fang Tian wonders if he can use this method to practice without worrying. After finishing the game, he logs out, and his friends congratulate him for almost winning. The opponent asks why he let him win, since he could have defeated him in the end. Fang Tian responds that he got distracted at that moment, and that's why he lost. After that, Cece and Fang Tian returns home. Upon arrival, Tang Ran scolds his daughter for leaving without permission, and tells Fang Tian that he made an appointment with a doctor because he is concerned about his mental state. Tang Ran believes in the lie that the protagonist was abused. After that, Fang Tian asks some information about his father, but Tang Ran avoids and changes the subject and informs him that he enroll him to the same school his daughter goes. Fang Tian remembered when he was a kid, sitting in a cart full of hay next to him is a man wearing a hoodie, whom he called Master.
Fang Tian asked the same question to his master, who answered that his father was a hero. In the evening, they arrive at the psychotherapy area where he meets a doctor introduced himself as Dr. Liao, who asks him several questions. While standing behind Fang Tian, Liao attacks him with a pen, but he dodges it and tackles him against the wall, asking him who he was. Then Liao takes off his mask and turns out to be his uncle Haberd. He is there to give him another mission. But Fang Tian first asks him about the helmet to enter the magical world and what was happening with that world. His uncle explains that there are two ways to enter the magical world. The first is through the entity, which is how Fang Tian entered, and the other is through the simulation, which is by using the helmet. He also reminded Fang Tian that their plan was making good progress and that their people had taken action in Area 3. Their next mission is to infiltrate the game while in a simulation, but on one condition. Fang Tian must not let anyone know how to use the entity to enter. Meanwhile, Tang Ran received a call from his people informing him that Area 3 of the virtual world was attacked, and they recognized a trace of the obsession. Here, obsession refers to the Hubbard organization's concern. Fang Tian and Hubbard came out of the room and caught Tang Ran having a conversation over the phone. When he saw Fang Tian, he hung up the call and asked the doctor about Fang Tian's condition. Habota told him that the treatment takes time, and that he needs to bring Fang Tian to him once a week. He also suggested letting Fang Tian get adapted to the outside world. Gaming could help him gradually adapt, Hubbard added. Later, upon returning home, Tang Ram bought 2 helmets following the doctor's instructions. He then tells them that he had to go on a business trip for a while and asks Cece to take care of the protagonist. In the evening, the two meet and put on the helmets. Cece asks him what level he was in the game. He said it was the only game he played as a child. Cece asked him how he made the 2 critical hits in a row, to which Fang Tian only replied that it was his instinct. When they put on the helmets, they arrived at the login interface. The system let Fang Tian choose between adventure and battle mode. Fang Tian picked the adventure mode, and the system detected that he had a game record. Following Hubbard's advice, he had no choice but to delete his data and start from scratch using his real name as his ID. The adventure mode began without instructions, requiring players to discover the game's mechanics on their own. He entered into a pine tree town which had a small population that was mirroring his past life. Despite having his attributes reset to 0, his honed skills remained intact. Fang Tian was taken aback when Cece approached him. She invited Fang Tian to form a team and offered to guide him in leveling up, and takes him to the outskirts to defeat monsters. While venturing into the forest, a monster jumps out of the bushes, but Cece defeats it with her magic. Since they were both parties, Fang Tian received additional points and reached level 1. Since Cece believed that Fang Tian didn't have experience playing in the game, she explained that at the start, each player has 4 main stats, and each of those stats has 5 points to start with. Then, when they level up, they gain 3 more points to add to their character stats. The 4 main stats are strength, intelligence, agility, and stamina. Strength determines attack and defense, agility determines the ability of critical attack and evasion, stamina determines the amount of HP, and intelligence determines the recovery speed. There are other ways to increase character stats besides leveling up. An example is wearing equipment with bonus stats or upgrading skill levels. Cece said that the starting point of each person is 5, but Fang Tian noticed that his stats are different. Cece promised that she will help him level up to level 10 in just a day, and after that, he can find an instructor to learn skills and receive tasks. If Fang Tian fulfills the basic skill requirements, he will be able to undertake his professional quest. His professional instructor will then teach him the skills of that profession, which astonishes Fang Tian. In his previous world, learning a new skill was more difficult than reaching for the sky with his hands. After the explanation, they start annihilating monsters. Later, Cece receives a letter from her friend asking for her help in a raid. And with that, Chapter 7 of City of Sanctuary comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed this thrilling journey through the fantastical world of Sanctuary. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for upcoming chapters and turn on the notification bell to never miss an update. Thank you so much for your support.